Hello and welcome. You're on Friday Double Bill. This is that show where we tell you, or we at least try and discuss all the films that are playing at a theatre near you. We also let you know from our end whether we think that particular film is a Dekho or Peko in the theatres. My name is Mayank Shekhar. Fahad Samar's right here. Give us a lineup, Fahad.
Well, we have a very interesting, eclectic lineup of films for you this week, starting with the multilingual film Baahubali, followed by a discussion on Guddu Rangeela. In the Hollywood section, we have the documentary Amy and also a look at the animated feature The Minions.
Baahubali is a massively scaled legend directed by S.S. Rajamouli. We see a little child seemingly banished from his kingdom. His mother dies trying to save his life. The kid grows up in a small hamlet to become a man blessed with extraordinary strength. The kingdom he originally belonged to draws him in finally. People in this kingdom recognize him soon as they see him. This is where he discovers both the love and the story of his life as the audience is treated to stunning battle and action sequences.
You know, Mayank, you must be the only person on this earth who hasn't seen Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Now, if you have, as most of mankind has, you will understand that the scale of the sequences, the battle scenes, the production values are of at such an epic level that we call this the golden age of television.
Right.
All of us over here, pine for the day that we could do something like this, that there is a possibility to have the budget to mount something and to have the visual effects, to do it at the kind of production value that would be worthy of India. I'm delighted to say that with this film, we are kind of getting there. It has been a mind-blowing experience submitting ourselves to this 2 hours, 40 minutes of sheer spectacle, sheer production value. This story is as unoriginal as it gets. It's as old as Moses, quite literally, because, this is a story of Moses and Pharaoh, and it's, constantly right through legends of history. You find this in all cultures. The entire treatment of this film and in fact some fantastic powerhouse performances is, I think, what really completely captures the audience, and we are going to wait for a sequel. I mean, they end it at a place where there's a cliffhanger, and you're actually, for the first time, I think, in Indian cinema, waiting with bated breath for a sequel that will come out in 2016. What did you think?
Well, absolutely. I think the fact that you mentioned a television show to start with, this really felt like that because it really ends not as a film of its own, but something that you will look forward to in terms of the picture, the sequel that will come out in 2016 is what they mentioned.
That's right.
Also, I felt, I was slightly late into the movie in the sense I came, I think, 5 or 6 minutes when the movie had already started. And, I got a sense that maybe I'm missing out on something that's already happened in the film. But as it turned out, the backstory comes up in the second half of the film. So the first half really was, the film in terms of its plot was just flying in the air according to me because, I didn't get a sense of exactly how they're going to hold it together. So yes, they'd use, structure very differently in that sense. But of course, this is not exactly the world's best plot, certainly not the most original plot as you rightly put it. But yeah, well, I've not seen Game of Thrones, and I know you would like me to, and I will at some point or the other. It's never too late to start. But you can see certain references here and there to movies that we've seen, the Hollywood movies that we've seen in the past. A lot of people, when they saw the promo, they immediately said 300. Yes, there's a sense of that as well. This, of course, you see a little bit of Troy and a whole lot of pictures in the same genre that we've seen in the past. But hey, we've seen nothing like this on an Indian screen before. Trust me, you.
Mayank, S.S. Rajamouli has garnered such a formidable reputation as a director with such eclectic kind of cinema. I mean, his the one about the fly,
Iga,
and then Iga, and which was known as Makhi. It's quite a trip. I mean, it needs a certain kind of crazy, whacked out sensibility and technical prowess in order to pull off films like that. He's also got Magadira.
Although I have to say that I didn't like Iga too much purely because of the performance and stuff, not so much for the concept, which is very original.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I mean, here we are with these kind of films. At least this man is pushing the envelope. And yes, this film is quite derivative in many ways. But then, as we always say, nakal ke liye bhi akal ki zarurat hoti hai. I was, the first 10 minutes there was, which you missed, I think, there was such amateur acting of this village Hamlet and the bumpkins and all of that I said, oh my God, we're going to be subjected to this nonsense for 2 hours, 40 minutes. But then you know, he quickly gets over that and he gets into the heart of the film, and then that you're really rooting for them all the way through. The other thing that I must say is I was very impressed with the female performers. They all have powerful roles. They have some wonderful kick-ass, literally kick-ass fight sequences. And, you know, more power to them, go feminists. And of course, when it's all machismo and Baahubali and all that, it's so refreshing to have powerful female protagonists as well.
Well, Fahad, I think nakal ke liye akal se zyada for a film like this, you need money. You know, I think, I don't even know the budget of this film, but even then so, it would be at least, you know, 1/10 of what a Hollywood movie made at a similar scale would be. So it takes someone from down south, a director of, you know, some serious grit and determination to pull off a picture like this that I think is almost world class here in terms of his visuals, in terms of the art direction, as you've already mentioned. And I'm thinking in my head, you know, if we have that kind of wherewithal to pull off a legend of this nature, perhaps even mythology, I think what we're really waiting for is a picture that is along the lines of Lord of the Rings, but is taking, say, Mahabharata, for instance, to the world, to be watched by everyone in the world. If we can do this, I have a feeling we can actually reach those levels. We make world-class cinema, because it's as world-class, at least as American in terms of its production design as it gets. And here we are making, you know, the same kind of superstar movies, you know, made by the same studios that makes far superior work, you know, when they're back home in the US. So what is Bollywood now? Bollywood is Disney, Bollywood is, you know, Viacom 18, Bollywood is, say, Fox, or for that matter, even Sony. So I think that kind of money, if they can put into a picture of this nature to make it global, I think we stand a great chance.
Well, you know, some of these studios did put a lot of money into a film like, say, Bombay Velvet, and unfortunately it turned out to be a debacle. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a blockbuster. It certainly deserves to be a blockbuster of epic proportions. It's also multilingual, so therefore it has a pan-Indian appeal, and these are stories that we've all grown up with. We know the idiom, we understand the sensibilities. It's speaking to us in a language, not just literally the language, but also the film language that we completely identify with. So I'm saying, थिएटर में देखो, इसी हफ्ते देखो, और जब सीक्वल आए उसे भी देखो.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, Fahad. This is a film that is so majestic, it stuns you into submission. I'm already looking forward to the sequel. I think you should certainly catch the first part, that is obviously in the theatre, isi weekend pe. Guddu Rangeela is a desi rustic western revolving around two outlaws who call themselves Guddu and Rangeela. While these guys are guns on hire, they also have a strong conscience. They get hired to abduct a young girl. In this particular instance, it turns out that they've been had. The girl, in fact, uses them to get back at the politician villain Billu Pahalwan. Arshad Warsi and Amit Saad play the lead roles in this film directed by Subhash Kapoor.
You know, Mayank, the last couple of years that I recall, Arshad Warsi has either been playing the Mama or the Bhanja, depending on who his co-star is. He's doing two hero films, and either he's playing with Nasir, so he's the younger guy, you know, or a sycophant with the Sanju Babas of the world, or then he's now entered into this elder statesman role where you had Jackie Bhagnani and Welcome to Karachi, which personally I think both of us couldn't wait to escape from Karachi, you know, at our soonest available opportunity. I therefore decided not to see this film, but please tell us what you thought.
Well, this is more along the lines of Jai and Veeru. So, you know, they're equals in that sense. I think it's supposed to be cousins in the film. This is a C-grade version of Sholay, and God knows every filmmaker at some point or other has either thought of making Sholay or has actually gone ahead and made Sholay, thinking at least in his head. So we've had, you know, in the past, we had Subhash Ghai make, you know, Karma, which was basically Sholay, and we've had, you know, a film like China Gate, which is also kind of Sholay, Joshile, which is Shekhar, and then of course the Aag, you know, who can ever forget that? So this is more along the lines of Ram Gopal Varma ki Aag, you know, in terms of plot is the lamest one that I've seen. What I really felt bad about Fahad is because, you know, of course it was, you know, bothering me and was boring me as it was boring, may have bored other people also, was I had very high expectations from this picture. One, of course, Arshad Warsi, because, you know, there are times when, you know, when he gets it right, he gets it really, really right.
Absolutely.
And we've seen him in a movie like Ishqiyan or A Date Ishqiyan. So this is also along the same lines in terms of genre. Of course, it seems far too B-grade in terms of a Vishal Bharadwaj picture. And then I was feeling bad for Subhash Kapoor. Now, what happened to him? Here's the guy who made Faz Gai Re Obama, which is a fantastic satire. He made Jolly LLB, which is also a great satire. And then this, I don't know what happens. I suspect sometimes they don't want to wait for far too long. There's somebody providing the cash or the funds and they just go ahead with it.
So, Phas Gaya Re audience, is it a dekho or a pheko?
Well, so far as I'm concerned, I felt very, very puzzlified in this picture. So yes, it's certainly a pheko from my side.
Well, there you are, Mayank unequivocally telling you it's a pheko. But let's find out what the Desi Martini audience has to say.
Guddu Rangeela was rated 2.8 out of 5 on Desi Martini. The Desi Martini verdict says, imperfect but awesome. Guddu Rangeela makes for a decent weekend watch. One of the reviewers says, Guddu Rangeela is predictable, overambitious, but an enjoyable film with some great performances.
Amy Winehouse was a singer with soul, a prodigious musical talent whose appeal crossed cultural and demographic boundaries. But while her music made her a star, her chaotic personal life stole headlines and eventually culminated in her death due to drug abuse and alcohol poisoning in 2011 at the age of 27. Asif Kapadia directs this 2-hour documentary that takes a powerfully honest look at the twisted relationship between art and celebrity and the lethal spiral of addiction.
Well, Fahad, recently at least 2 movies I can remember which were biopics of musicians that I've seen, which were also documentary films. One was a movie on R.D. Burman, which was made by a gentleman called Brahmanand Singh. The other one was Martin Scorsese's film on George Harrison. Now, the difference between those 2 films and this one, because it's based on the life of someone who is more contemporary in that sense, is what kind of visuals do we have now? We're living in a time where, the world of selfies and, world of cell phones, where everything is being recorded. So I was just stunned with this particular picture where there are no interviews as such. We're actually seeing her life as she lived it. At least some of the most pivotal moments are actually captured on camera. And I think that just tells you how documentaries of individuals in particular would get made into the future, because we're just revealing ourselves visually so much more than we did before. And I think that is just one of those things that to me makes this film almost a masterpiece. What did you think?
Well, absolutely. I mean, let's not forget that Asif Kapadia is also the guy who's responsible for making Senna, a documentary on the life of Ayrton Senna, the race car driver. And this is after the death of Amy Winehouse that he was approached by Universal Studios to make this documentary. And imagine the wealth of footage, as you said. I mean, these are people who've lived their lives documented on camera, whether it was on the iPhone, whether some cheap video camera, whether it's on any kind of format possible. This is a woman who was living her life completely, almost as if there was a trajectory that was destined to burn out. Right. And to die at the age of 27, that club that she's joined of Jimi Hendrix, of Jim Kurt Morrison, Cobain, of Kurt Cobain, of Janis Joplin. I mean, this is like a death wish coming true. And you as an audience are watching this and are part of that journey, and you're seeing her implode. And it's heartbreaking, and it's like, you want to just jolt her out of it, but obviously it's like watching the Titanic. You know what's going to happen, but you're just sitting there watching this train wreck unfold.
Well, I mean, obviously the viewers know that this is a picture with, about life that is played out pretty much in public. We know exactly what happened to her. Also, at some level, it's not voyeurism. I think that needs to be made very clear to audiences who are watching this show. But, there are certain moments in this film that tell you exactly how pain is the flip side of art. And that's how the movie, goes from start to end. But then there are certain other moments that reveal so much about the personality. I remember that particular moment, I don't know if you loved it as much, was when she's backstage in the Grammys and the nominations are being announced and they say Justin Timberlake, and she's like, and then the album name was revealed, which is What Comes Around Goes Around. She's like, really, that is, those are the words? Because she's a huge, a pretty decent poet herself, and she makes fun of that. But when she actually wins the Grammy and then she thinks about, about how she can't celebrate because she can't do drugs anymore, and that it feels so boring to her, I think it reveals something about drug addicts too. And it's not just dissent, you actually enjoy it too. But of course, it was not something that she should have been doing. But that's just one moment I thought was fantastic. What did you think?
Oh my God, this film is actually just a series of such vignettes. Almost at the end, one of the last songs she ever recorded was with the great Tony Bennett,
Right.
you know, who's a great, I'm a huge fan of this man, as was she, and she got an opportunity to record with him, and she was so insecure, and her whole personality was so denuded by drugs that she kept saying, apologizing to him, saying, I'm so sorry, I don't want to waste your time, I can't do this. And she was just nailing it, but because she just was so insecure and so fragile by the time, and he was obviously the father figure saying, don't worry, you know, all of them are like them, and she's like, no, you're not like me, I'm like you, because I worship you. I mean, beautiful moments like that. And of course, the great tragedy of this woman is that it's the men in her life, whether it's her husband who introduced her to heroin and crack cocaine, or her father who completely was absent.
He comes across as the villain in the piece.
I
Actually.
mean, you know, both of them, they're just such complete vermin, you know, that it's not a very good week for men as far as, you know, this is concerned. And really, it's just a tragedy, and it's a universal tragedy.
Well, so far as the verdict goes, while it's a documentary and a lot of people don't enjoy watching documentaries on the big screen, but this one, whether or not you're a fan of Amy Winehouse, I think you'll love it. Please watch in the theater. Please watch it this weekend.
Absolutely. These are the kind of films that will stay with you for a long, long time, regardless of whether you are a fan or not. It's a human experience, and I urge you to submit to that. First seen in the 2010 film Despicable Me, Minions are yellow, pill-shaped, gibberish-speaking creatures. The Minions now have their own movie that begins at the dawn of time and follows them as they evolve through the ages, perpetually serving the most despicable of masters. Continuously unsuccessful at keeping these masters, from T-Rex to Napoleon, the Minions find themselves without someone to serve and fall into a deep depression. But one minion named Kevin, alongside teenage rebel Stuart and lovable little Bob, venture on a thrilling journey that leads them to their next potential master. Scarlet Overkill, voiced by Sandra Bullock, the world's first ever female supervillain. The Minions travel from Antarctica to 1960s New York City, ending up in Maud London, where they must face their biggest challenge to date, saving all of Minionkind from annihilation.
Well, you know, Fahad, it's almost become a cliche to discuss how great Americans or Hollywood is at animation. So let's just leave it aside. I also feel that this is possibly the cutest characters I've seen on the screen. Cute, of course, when we see them, but I have a feeling if I actually find them in a store as in merchandise, and if they also spoke like that in gibberish, I would like to keep some on my desk for sure. As far as the movie is concerned, I mean, it's again just as cutesy as those characters are. There is, of course, some old retro rock for the oldies. But by and large, it's really a kids' film. In terms of plot, I thought Pixar's Inside Out was far better. But so far as taking kids to the theater is concerned, well, I have my nephew and my niece visiting next week. I'm certainly taking them, and I'm going to watch it again. And I think so should you.
Well, I was certainly charmed for about the first 20 minutes. The novelty wore thin very quickly. Of course, these are very charming creatures, exceedingly cute and adorable and all of that. What it really needed was some personality in terms of the arch villain, and I thought Sandra Bullock did a very poor job of voicing this role. She was simply not up to the task, and eventually it left me a little cold. The music helped somewhat, but at the end of it, it's definitely a dekho as far as I'm concerned, but I would say even theater mein dekho or DVD pe dekho.
Well, that was Friday Double Bill, guys. Do let us know what you thought of the movies. Do let us know what you think of the show. And yes, please do subscribe to the channel.